So this will be part 7 of our end-to-end microservices architecture. So we've completed building the first part. We've built the server 1, the server 2, and we've also built the web. Okay, and right now we are going to do a UI application built in Angularjs so that we'll be able to use this UI to be able to access the services. Actually, this UI application you can actually do without it, but I'm teaching you how to do an end-to-end application, a complete pipeline, so that after now you'll be able to be employed anyway. If you complete this series completely, you should be able to do the work of a software engineer, a full stack developer. And I'm using MongoDB for this. So this is something, a NoSQL, which is actually a modern trend. So consider subscribing. Again, we have a step-by-step right here in my website. So please subscribe. And also if you want to get notified when a new lesson comes out, also subscribe for the articles on the website. All right, so let me start up all the 3 servers, which I actually did. So I actually started all the 3 servers, the server 1, the server 2, and the web. So I'm going to access for the server 1. It runs at port 8081. So I'm going to say HTTP 8081 localhost at port 8081. And I'm going to access the products. So we have server 1 is working. You can see, take note that the products here are coming from the US. And also take note that server 2, if I change the port to 8082, and see that the products are coming from India, as you can see right here. But this is just the back-end servers. The main application, which is a product web, is the main application people or clients will be accessing, or users will actually access. So that application, the client, the web application, which is the main application, which is this one, runs on port 8090. So I'm going to access port 8090. And the key is that when something goes wrong, we are trying to say the historic circuit breaker will make sure that the application continues to run even if something goes down, even if one of these servers goes down. So if I access at port 8090, you can see that the products are coming from the USA. You can see the location right there. But if I now go to shutdown, if I go to shutdown, this is product server 1. I'm going to shut down the primary server right now. This is a primary server. I'm going to simply shut it down. I can just click on run and click on stop product server 1. Okay, I've stopped it. I'm going to shift it out from here. Now, if I go back to people, let's say the clients are still accessing the application and they still go back to the web application to refresh, and they'll still get data, but this time it's going to switch to product server 2. And now you can see the location is coming from India. If you look at the console for the web application, you can see the console has a message right here that says delegating to the secondary server. You can see delegating to the secondary server, meaning that product server 1 fails and it now routes the traffic to the secondary server. So this is called what the circuit breaker is all about, okay? But we are going to still do more because we need to see a dashboard that helps us do the monitoring that we are going to do in the next part. In this part, let's just build the Angularjs Angular application. Sometimes I mix up this Angularjs, Angular. For me, all of them are based supersets of JavaScript, so I call them JS. So let's build the UI application. So I'm going to stop this. Now, to build the UI application, I recommend you have Visual Studio Code application in your system. It's free. Download it and install. And let me also stop all the servers so that my system can improve. Okay, so I'm going to stop this as well. So to start a new Angular app, I'm also going to follow the steps because if you follow the procedure, it makes life easier for you. So these are the steps right here. So I'm going to kind of restore this so that I can see side by side. All right, so this is where we are. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to set up node.js. So I'm going to go to my command prompt. I'm going to type in cmd. I'm going to run this command prompt as administrator. Yes, okay. So we have the command prompt. So we are going to navigate into, okay, first we are installing node.js. That I've installed. To install node.js, simply download it from this link. You have this link on my website, download and install it, that's all. The next thing we are going to do is to install Angular Node.js or Angular CLI. So for now, let's check that Node.js is installed. The installation is very easy using an installer package. So I'm going to say node dash version. So you can see it tells us node version 10.15.1. That's the latest version as of 2020 May. And now let's install Angular CLI. So to install it, you say npm npm -g at Angular /CLI. So hit this and enter the CLI. So once you run this code, it installs Angular on your system. I'm not going to run it because it's a waste of time. I already installed Angular. So after installing Angular, simply say ng, just to check whether it installed correctly, ng -- version. What's happening to me today? So it tells us the version of Angular as well, which is Angular CLI 9.1.3. So the next thing I want to do now is to create a new Angular app, which is very easy. You simply say ng, let me go down. So here we have step 2. So now I know this step, so I'm not reading it, but for you, take some time to be reading as you go, because I made a little explanation as I go. So the first thing I want to do, let me just go to the folder containing all the other 3 microservices I'm creating, because I'm creating everything in the same directory so that all the services can be in the same directory. So if I go to open the directory, you can see the directory I called history.xaml from step 1. From part 1, you already know this directory. History.xaml contains the 3 services. So I'm going to create the Angular UI app inside this directory. So to do that is also very easy. Let me shift this a bit to this side and also shift this to this side as well. So here I'm going to run the command ng new and then specify the name of the application. First, I'm going to do a cd to drive D. The name of the folder is histories. I think I can just say D history demo. Okay, so I actually need to use cd. Okay, so now we're inside the history's demo directory, and now we want to create a new application, Angular UI app inside this folder. So I'm going to simply say ng new product UI. The name of this Angular app is product UI. So I'm going to say ng new product UI, ng new product UI. Yes, I think enter. So it takes a while to yes. So just say yes. Okay, so it takes a while. It creates the application, downloads all the necessary dependencies from the web, from the repository into your class part. And we are going to wait for a while, for a few seconds or even minutes, I don't know. Okay, so while we are waiting for it, let me just explain to you a bit of how the Angular application is structured, because maybe we may not have enough time to do this explanation later. When you create a new Angular application, it's simply just like the same way it works with React, the same way it works with other frameworks like Vue.js. Now, Angular is a framework, it's not a library, it's not a runtime like Node.js, just like Angular is a framework used to build a web application. So we have this code, this command, we specify this command and it executes some function and builds something. So when we say ng new and specify the application name, it actually runs functions in the framework and then creates up this application. The Angular application is made up of a number of things. The key thing in an Angular application is called a component. A component is simply a chunk of the UI. So if you have, for instance, you are browsing Facebook, you have the sidebar, you have the header, you have the footer, all these several components of the UI, all these are called components of the UI. So we are going to be creating components which are part of the UI. Now, things that are not components, for instance, the part of the application that is going to be use to make a REST call, maybe a script file. In Angular, we use TypeScript, not JavaScript. So the script file, they are normally services and they are not part of the UI. They are simply contain codes or methods that execute and provide data or send data away from the UI or to the UI. It makes call to the backend services, like when we want to make GET requests or POST requests, we are going to be using HTTP client service here. So as we are building this application, we are going to make this application run on a port, and it's going to access the product web API, and then fetch data and display on a UI. We are going to be using Bootstrap to style our UI. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to set up this. It's very easy, and that is what we are going to be doing now. All right, so our application is successfully created. So I'm going to simply start this application by running running the command ng-serve. So let me just shift it. The step-by-step is already here on my website, so feel free. ng-serve, ng-serve, not ng-server. I hate making this mistake. So it takes a few seconds and it's going to run this application. The stuff required. Okay, we first need to navigate into the folder. So I'm going to say cd product UI, and also inside the UI I'm going to run ng-serve. So we run ng-serve, so it's going to spin up this application in a container, and then we're able to access this application. So it's going to be complete with a complete UI application created with a start page, as you know. Okay, so this is how the start page looks like. Instead of looking at it from here, maybe we can just wait. All right, so now the compilation process is complete. So it's going to kind of attempt to open my browser, but if it doesn't, I'm going to simply open this application running on localhost port 4200, and you can see what happens. So I'm going to maximize this. I'm going to open localhost running at port 4200. I'm going to say 4200. And now we'll have a beautiful Angular UI application created for us. So 4200, not 2400. So 4200. Okay. So the product UI application is ready. Okay. So the next thing we want to do, we want to clear away all the junk in this UI and put in a list of products coming from the product web. So that is what we want to display on this place. So let's go ahead to continue. So let me go back here, step by step. So the next step says, at this point, I recommend you open this project in either Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ IDE. So for you, I think you should have Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ. Okay, so let me try to open maybe, let me see. Okay, so I choose to open in Visual Studio Code for some reason. After now, maybe I'll try to open it in IntelliJ as well. So let me go to Visual Studio Code, VS Code. This is my Visual Studio Code folder. Okay, should be open folder. So it's going to be history XAML. So these are folder history XAML. So I'm going to select it and just open it. All right. All right. So you can see all the applications we are working with right here in Visual Studio Code. So let me now go to the command line, because we also have to use command line. This command line is okay, but I don't want us to be moving between applications. So I'm going to stop it by pressing Control C on my keyboard. It should be able to stop. Okay, if it doesn't, I'm simply going to close the window. Okay, yes, terminate, and then I'm going to enter exit on the keyboard. So now to get to the command prompt, to the embedded command prompt in Visual Studio Code, what you will do is to go to, let me close up this as well. Maybe I can restore this so that I can actually see my page. So what you can do is to go to terminal here and say new terminal. So when you say new terminal, it opens something like this, and this is our command prompt at this time. I can actually hit on my keyboard some key to change to increase the font. Don't know if I can get it, but okay, I think I'm getting it. Font increase, good. Okay, so I'm going to navigate into the product UI. So I'm going to say cd product UI. All right. So for now, let's open the product UI so that you can see what the folder structure of the Angular application. So here we are. The first thing we want to do now is to create the product component, and the product component is simply the component that will display the list of products coming from the product web API. So to do that, we simply run a simple command, ng generate component product. So this product is a component, so basically it will display a list of products. So I'm going to say ng generate component product. So there is a command and it's going to generate the product for us. I'm going to go down. All right, so it created the component for us. So I'm going to show you what a component looks like. So a component is simply a folder inside the SRC. SRC, so it should be somewhere. Okay, so we have it here. So you can see here product inside the app. Okay, this is fine. So this component is made up of a number of things. You can read them all. The component, the CSS, the HTML, and the style sheets. Okay, and the scripts. So these are basic things in a web application: the style, CSS, the JavaScript. In this case, we are using TypeScript, and also the HTML. So these three things are here for us. So I'm going to open the product, the HTML. So the HTML, which is this guy here. And if we run this application and view and go to /product, with /product, we're actually going to see this page. But you can test it out yourself, but I don't have the time to do that for now. So test the product component and see that this product works, displays. So the instruction says delete the content of the HTML file. Which HTML file? So it's going to be, let's see, it's going to be app.html. Why did I not? So I should have made it clear. So if I go to app.html, so this is the base, let's say the basic. Let me see. I think yeah. So the product component and any other component, they are mounted on the base component, and the app content component is the base component. So the product component will be mounted inside the base component, and the base component is what you see displaying this start page. You see all the stuffs you see here, they are coming from the base component. So we don't want to see this. We would want the product component to be mounted inside this base component. Remember, a UI is made up of different components put together. So we want to only display the product component on this page, page. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually select everything in this place and delete it. So that's the instruction. So I'm going to select everything and delete it except the last tag that says router outlet. So this is the only thing you are going to leave in this page. And so we are going to mount the product component on inside this node, inside this root node. Okay, so I'm going to save everything, and the next instruction says delete the content of the HTML file for the app component. I'm going to update this website to reflect this change. Now the next thing we want to do is to open the routing module. The routing module is in charge of placing components in different places, right? So when you go to a browser, you enter something, it has to route to somewhere. So in this case, we want when the user goes to /product, it's going to route to the product component. So to do that, I'm going to go to the routing module to make this change. So you have to go down and look for the routing module. So the routing module is called routing.module.ts. So look for this file. I think it should be. Okay, so sorry, I'm mixing up things. So this is a module responsible for routing the different URL patterns to different components. We are simply going to add a path in the routes state, in the routes inside the route. We are going to add a path. I'm going to say path. Path is going to be to /products to products. Okay. So when one visits /products, we want to display the product component. So I'm going to say components, and it's going to be products component. Okay. So we want to display the product component when one goes to this route. And next, we want to create a HTTP client service. A HTTP client service is a service that will actually be used to make API calls to the backend web API, to the backend web API or product web. So to do that, I simply run a simple command as well. So I'm going to shift this as well. So I'm going to run a command ng create service. I want to put the service inside a folder called service. So I want to put it inside a folder called service. So I'm putting this folder here. So I want to call this HTTP client. Okay, so this client is a service that I'll use to be making HTTP calls across the backend product web. So there is a syntax. I think I'm getting it right. So I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard. So after this command runs, the service will be created, and we'll have. So why do we have HTTP create service ng create service? So I think it should be ng generate service. I can't remember. So let me try. Be ng generate service. So let's see. Okay. So it should be ng generate service. I'm going to update my website. So you can see that we have a service now inside the app component. So we have a service right here. So let's modify this service to be able to make HTTP calls. So this is a service right here. Now we need to make some modification. First, we are going to add the class so that when we get these items can be marshaled into a certain class. And this class has to be an object of product. So we are going to create this product class here, because we need list of product, not just some object. So okay, so we have the product class created for us. The constructor is there for us, so that when it comes from the API, the UI will understand that this is product. Also add HTTP client as parameter to the constructor. Also add. Okay, so we have this constructor here. So I'm going to add a parameter to it. I'm going to say private HTTP client HTTP client Okay, to solve this problem, we need to import HTTP clients, because I just checked. So I'm going to say import HTTP clients from Angular is common /HTTP. So it should be coming from here, right? Finally, define a method that does the actual product web. Okay, so we are going to define a method that does the actual get operation that calls the product web. So to do that, I'm going to define it outside this constructor. So I'm going to just paste this method right here. Okay. So this method, let me just make some room, returns a list of items from the product web, and the product web is running on port 8090 if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to correct it at this point. Product web is running on port 8090. Let's just make sure product web is running on port 8090, as you can see right here. So the next thing we want to do is to now use the HTTP client service to use it in the product component. Okay, so let's get back to the product component. Get back to the product component. So here we are in the product component right here. So we have a number of things. Make some room here. Now the product component is going to use a service to make calls. So we are going to open the TS file. So this file here. So now we are going to add a number of things. The first thing, let me just show you. I don't want to copy and paste this code. So let me just show you the changes we need to make. So the first thing we want to do is to add the, okay, so do a constructor injection. So I'm going to first, okay, let's put in this. So this, let's see, okay. So we need a state. It says cannot find product, so can import it from wherever it is. So let me just put this. So put the import statements here. So actually should give me IntelliSense to be able to import this easily. So product is a variable that will hold the product when it comes from when the function returns the list of products is going to be stored in this variable product. And finally, we need to add the do a constructor injection of this. So I'm going to just copy this, or maybe I can just type it out here. So I'm going to add a parameter private HTTP client service of HTTP client service. Well, that is the service we are going to be using to make the call, because this is a service that I told you is making the call. So this very component we are working with simply receives the what comes from the service, okay, or has a function that uses the service to make the call. So spend some time around it, it becomes clear to you. Sorry, maybe my explanation may not be perfectly well, but I explained it very clearly here on my website. All right, so the init methods we are now going to. First, we are going to in the init method, we are going to write the function that actually returns the. So I'm going to say, hey, this .http client service .get product, okay, because the get product is defined in the HTTP client service .get product, and so since it's going to be an async call, so I'm going to say subscribe. So when you subscribe, it's going to wait for it to come, and when it comes, it's now going to run a function that catches it. So that's why we have subscribe, so that it doesn't tie down the thread, and once it's coming, it's taking some time to come, it's going to release the thread to do other things. So once the data comes back, we are going to put it inside a variable called response. The response variable response. Use this operator, this that. Now we've not written this handle. I should have written it. Handle successful response. Okay, response. Okay, now we've not written this methods. I'm going to write it now. So we need a function that is going to execute when the data is returned. So let me just make sure I'm not having a typo. So here I'm going to go to quick fix and say declare a method handle successful response. So I'm going to just declare it. So it declares a new method for me right here. And I have an error somewhere here. So it should be I think a comma here. Okay, it should be a comma. You have the code right here for you. All right, so this method is not implemented, so the successful response will simply grab the response and assign it to the product variable we already defined. So I'm going to say this products is equal to response. Okay, all right. Now we also need a refresh in case we refresh the page. So I need a function that is going to execute when a refresh button on the page is clicked. So this is an addendum, so you can actually do without it, but I recommend you do it. So this is going to refetch again. This is, I think I'm having a typo. Handle successful response. See, so response. So it's not response, it's response. Yeah. So we built our product service, and now we have the component now have a list of products. The next logical thing we need to do is to display this list of products in the HTML part of the component. So we are going to display it in the product HTML. So I'm a little bit fast because I'm running out of time. So I'm going to product HTML, and at this point we are going to display the list of products. Since I don't have much time, I'm going to copy the markup and then paste it there. So the markup is simple to understand. I'm going to explain it to you. Actually, we also need to add Bootstrap. So what is happening right here is that we have ng4 is equal to let product of product. So iterating through the product and displaying it in a HTML page. And we also need a button, a dummy button I added right here, and another dummy button I also added right here. And now this other dummy button on the head, this I call this button btn. This button here, the click event for this button is going to call the refresh function that I wrote. You remember when I did this refresh function, I copied and pasted. So this button is going to call the refresh function. Finally, let's just add the bootstrap. So because this is something that I always don't like doing all of this because I'm not a UI guy, but I just have to do it. So let's install Bootstrap. So npm install Bootstrap minus save Bootstrap minus save. Okay, so I'm adding Bootstrap now. I'm not going to install the other two for so that I can save time. After now, I'm going to copy this and paste it inside the style the CSS. So basically I'm going to go back here and go to src and go to style. So look for style the CS. Like this is style the CSS, and I'm going to simply paste this. It's going to import the Bootstrap from the directory where it is and put it as part of the style sheet. Okay. So at this point we're almost done. So don't like this. So it's installing Bootstrap, and now default port of Angularjs application is 4200, but we want to use we want to use 8091, right? So to do that, let me just go back to, maybe let's just go back up. Let's just take a quick look at the architecture once again so that I can just show you. So this is our architecture. So the AngularJS app, okay, runs as 4200, but I made this product web run at 8090, AngularJS app run at 8091. So let's get back here. So let's go down. Okay, let's go down here. So Bootstrap is installing. Just wait patiently for it to complete installing. So you can see that Bootstrap installed successfully. So now it's time to do some testing. I'm going to say file, save all. So now we hope to see save all. And we are going to start this app, but we also need to start the other three apps, the other three services. So while I run ngserve here, I'll go to start the other services. So I'm going to say ngserve. Let me just shift this so that you can see what is happening. ngserve. Now I can specify the ports. If I don't want it to use the default port, I'm going to specify minus port 8091. The reason is because the product UI, which is running at the product web is running at port 1890, so I want the Angular app to run at port 1891. So I'm going to hit enter, and then we are going to go start up our server. So I'm starting server 2 right now, and I'm also going to start server 1. This is server 1 right here. So this is server 1. I'm going to start it, server 1. And I'm going to start the product web as well. So I'm going to go to the product web and start it up here. So all our microservices are running. Now, the interesting thing about microservices architecture is that there might be a whole lot of services. Some of these services can actually be running in a different place, completely different continent, different location, different servers, but you can beautifully hook them up together by using microservices, and that is what exactly I'm doing right now. I think all my servers have started, and let's check our Angular app and see. Okay, so it says unknown option. Okay, so it's actually ngServe minus minus. So it's going to be minus. Let me just check. I think you need to specify. Okay, ngServe, you need to specify the port. ngServe specify dash port 8091. Okay, this should be fine. Okay, so let's see. Okay. All right, so everything worked successfully. So let's go test and see what we have. So I'm going to go to port 8090, 809, 8091, okay, and slash products. And let's see.
I'm on it. I didn't get that. Could you try again?
So it seems we have an error.